Good day. This is your Sensei Al Bob. And remember to breathe. I have this sense. Hi, Jamie. Courtney. I have this sense. Not that this is our last chance, but this is one of our best chances, or the last best chance. Because things are just. I'm looking at what happened to California this summer. And I have friends there, and I have friends everywhere within well-placed places. You know, all those years I was a demographer and a scholar, I kind of developed friends in places. And it seems that all those fires, especially in the pretty much urban areas, cities, like the Camp Fire, and it burned, incinerated thousands of homes, and thousands of people died, meaning they just, after a certain amount of time, they didn't look for them, period, and they just said, oh, they're missing. And that smoke went up and crossed and laid itself down across the country, and went across Texas, and went across the Panhandle, went across the northern part of Florida, both the west and east coast, and then went up Georgia and South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, up into Maine. And then around the end of July, August, September, we had the hurricane in North Carolina and South Carolina. We had the hurricane that obliterated the Panhandle of Florida. And then we just had rain and rain and rain and rain. And what's going across, from Texas up to Maine, is this epidemic of what they call community pneumonia. And last night I was talking about the only thing evil is this dark oil. And it seems that the fires were caused, especially the housing areas, were caused by space-based microwave, energy weapons, because the grass wasn't burned, the shrubs weren't burned, the cars and the houses were incinerated. And I used to be a fireman, and so I responded to a number of fires, and even ones that are really going strong, we could put it down, and then anywhere between 60 and 30% of the house was burned, but the chimneys were still there, the appliances were still there, and still 30 to 20% of the house was still there. These houses were incinerated, and the appliances and chimneys were gone. There was something very different there. And then the smoke pattern, and then the hurricanes, and then the continuing rain, and the community pneumonia. And the interesting thing, this holds the pattern of 2010 with the oil catastrophe, the BP oil catastrophe. And, Obama right away allowed BP just to throw down a few billion. And then a friend of mine was an endocrinologist, an environmental scientist, and they said, hey, I'm going to go down. You're really good with people. I'm going to go study the medical effects of this thing. I'm being paid by John Hopkins to go look at this. And it would really be great if you could come with me. I'll pay your bills, I won't give you a salary, but I'll buy your meals, put you in a motel room, and da-da-da. And I want you to do your little, insight thing to see the human connections, right? And seem to vaporize, yeah. Well, I wasn't on the West Coast, and where I was, both Roanoke and the Deep Green are in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I'm right in this fold between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachian. And those mountains, things bounce off and don't really hit us. I mean, we were affected, but not like other people. And we didn't have the hurricanes and we didn't have the fires. And we're kind of still in our basic weather pattern of old growth forest, even though the acid rain has destroyed most of the trees and most of the industrial, especially around the Roanoke area. These forests are dead. Just because a tree has leaves doesn't mean it's healthy or alive. Yep. Houses down to the concrete. Tesla Tech, yep. Just like 9/11, yep. So it seems, it feels, before 9/11 happened, I knew a lot of what was going on. But the 9/11 event, it didn't catch me by surprise, but I didn't know it was going to happen. I mean, if I did, I would have warned a lot of folk. And, I was an apprentice electrician, Local 3, on those buildings, and I was intimate with their construction. And they were built to never fall down, So those, no airplane, the 757, 767, there's like basically aluminum thermos bottle with wings, And there's just so much data that shows something's wrong here. And a number of really righteous people, like architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, they have come and done a really serious scientific study, and no one's covering any of this. You think flying saucers get the shift? This isn't getting anywhere because these folks were so. If you go see the movie about Dick Cheney, Vice, you really, it's a great movie because it's not like one of Michael Moore's movies. It's really an interesting movie, but and they don't really blame anyone, but you see what the energy, it's like Fox's book about, Donald Trump's White House, and now that book's a little more, sensational, but something's going on, something's percolating, and we don't even have a constitution anymore. The Patriot Act and all the other things that have been passed since 9/11. And this whole thing about building the wall seems like a real setup. Anyway, so that's why last chance, and really. No one is stepping up, and those who try, like I said, all the truth, they're being, as kooks and they're terrorists. This guy just kind of went into he was caught with a gun going into the Pentagon, and he was screaming that he was a truther, right? So now every truther is like that, right? Now, I hear Sensei Al-Bab, I don't believe in anything. I don't, subscribe to any outlook because nothing is all one thing or another. You have to look in depth. 30 years of looking at trends made me realize why I'm so good at this is that I don't subscribe to any belief structure. know. And I think Donald Trump is amazing because he is the X-lax of the American body politic. He is causing the diarrhea of the colon of what people would call the deep state, and that's again another irrelevant term because there is no state. There are no nation states. There's a cabal, and it's transnational. It's not American, not Russian, not any of the above. And so if you go back and look at ancient history or history all the way as back, Mesopotamia, Samaria, all of those places, it's, that's how you have to do it. You really have to go. And there's some really, some great YouTubes about Sitchin and all the scholars who've been looking at this for the last 70 years. And then, if you read those guys, because what a really good scholar does, it looks at what was done before them, because why invent? I mean, right now, our history is constantly being reinvented, When Donnie said that, he tried to mention about how the Russians invaded Afghanistan and that they were going after terrorists, And so, and like I said, there are no nation states. Russia, China, United States, all of Japan, you name it, every country, there is an element of the hidden hand in all of them, Yeah, the 1871 Corporation, plain truth, PSYOP. So the thing is that we can't get carried away with this. We need to offer an alternative aesthetic, one that everyone can go, yeah, join up with. So that is like our homework assignment, right? That's what I'd like to talk about tonight. I'm working on some things right now, but I was in one of my breakfast spots and they had the music on. The last time I was there, I didn't even hear the music, but they, YouTube took it down because the song was owned by, it was like, come on. Anyway, and my videos that I keep telling you guys to go look at, it's under my playlist. See, I don't know anything about this stuff, and one of the cadre sent me a very nice email mentioning look at this, this is how you do that. That was very nice. I needed that. I give you a thumbs up on that one. And the other thing is that all of you have been sending me so many nice letters. You can reach me with a letter or a gift or something in the letter at P.O. Box 1165, Vinton, Virginia, 24179. And again, others have sent me things via Western Union. And I want to thank you. I mean, I was down to my last dollar and a couple of those came in and, that's really saving my butt. Or I would have gas for the car. I'd be, sleeping under a tree, which I've done before. Newton did that, Buddha did that, Jesus did that. So, I'm in good company. So, but I want you, before tonight's video, give this a think. Now, you've been working on going into your Akashic record and seeing things. And as my teachers would say, have you had a vision? So I want you to go into your Akashic record. And I want you to go into your sanctuary of your own choosing. I want you to go to the tree of life and look at all those cuts and the roots and go in the back doors and go to those places. You need to start investigating this stuff yourself. You need to start using the tools that I'm giving you. Just like that brother who left on my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42. So if you do anything with Western Union, it's Al, Martino, and you leave me the routing number on my Gmail, the Dude Awake 42. Works like a charm. I really appreciate you folks who are helping me out. And because, I'm just a dollar here and a dollar there from, you know, losing, I have a bank account. And because, if you don't leave X amount of dollars in it, they close it. And because I have no credit rating, no nothing, don't live in, it'd be hard to open up another credit account, another bank account. I mean, they're really putting the thumb screws on things. So anyway, that's where I'm at. And so again, tonight, 7 p.m., it's 16:16. At 17:17 or 20:20, I'll bump off. Let's see what you guys have been saying here. Maybe. Yeah, no kidding. Technology, my observation when I was, electrical engineer guy, was working in those fields in the early 70s. I kind of got stuck out in New Mexico, and I worked for this electric firm, and I was really good with transformers, and so I got sent off to work at Los Alamos, Sandias, Kirkland Air Force Base, those three places, and things in between. Kirkland Air Force Base is like half of New Mexico and Nevada and Utah. It's like just all of that west stuff is owned by the federal government, which is owned by the hidden hand. And so I saw lots of things. And in the east, there are, between D.C. and all along the Blue Ridge Mountains to Georgia, there's all those mountains are full of stuff. And so I've been asked to, why don't you, because, when I was young and could move around and use my joints, I could use my brain, and I still do. But what's really strange is that experience is no longer valued because people just take it off the computer. So there are all these young folks who work for nothing, and they're out there, and they don't realize that they're in the environment and they're being exposed to things and no one tells them. So they die by the time they're 35. Now I'm pretty aware of a lot of stuff. So, unless they really need me, they don't want me, They're very nice to me. Like I said, they take me out to lunch. They give me a Kroger card or a Publix card or Ingles card, wherever I am. Or they, give me a Benjamin or two. But other than that, because they keep saying, Al, you're a little ahead of your time, Al. So in the early 70s, I saw technology that was a good 2,000 years ahead of, meaning I was creating and fixing power supplies that were multi-harmonic, multi-dimensional. And the only thing you could use them for was, space travel, like, warp drive and time travel. It's the only thing that you would use this for. And I was just reading a paper where, back in the 50s, the Nazis had, fusion, but like fusion, like Back to the Future, when Doc shows up and he's wearing the, he's driving the DeLorean and he's got, aluminum outfit, and he picks through the garbage and he throws it into the, Sony fusion, and it's like the size of a Waring blender. I mean, I saw that they had that stuff, things like that in the 70s, like power supplies that were just, the size of, thermos, and it kicked out, megawatts, and it gave no heat off, no radiation. It just had taps. What do you want? 440, 220, three phase, multi-dimensional phase. And that, my friends, is what is known as 0 point energy. And I saw that. Did I stick one in my pocket? No. Did I take pictures of it? No. Is there probably any reference of me? I mean, I don't know if what references even tell the truth? I mean, that's what I love about truth. Truth isn't truth. Donald Trump is giving everyone the 411 of what it is. Of course, people think he's like our savior, but no, he's just another employee, please. And he's been tripped with, man. That boy, his mind has been fused. It's like poor boy. I feel sorry for Donnie. You know, and so he's had an operation where he's got no hair, so he's vain as hell. So what he had like like me. I got hair back here, but nothing up here. So they have this operation where they cut all this skin off, and they pull all of this up here, right? Well, man, when they do that, they got direct access into your brain, and all you got to do is go straight up there, and you're right in the frontal lobes. I mean, that's why people who snort stuff, it affects them immediately because it goes straight into their frontal lobes. Anyway, so this is a very interesting time, and we have a great opportunity. We have a great cadre. We can do some amazing things. Guys, got to do your homework. Got to step up. Slancha. Hey, and how you doing, buddy? Movie footage on the... Seems pretty real to me. Who knows? Boo, boo, boo. Yeah, I would say something like that. It may be a psyops. Has been tech long before we can imagine. Yep. But you guys have the access. You can go to the Akashic Record and see all this stuff. And what the Akashic Record is really good for. You go in, you ask the question, it brings up all this information. If there's like, what about this? What about that? You got the 28 little TV sets. That gives you a different perspective. You still don't know. Your librarian will bring you further text. That's what all those books are for. And then if you still can't put it into, because you got to find the key. You got to be able to twist that book around and see. And that's why you got the 28 screens. You don't have to move the book around, In that movie, First Contact, I think it was, with what's her name, the female movie star, Jodie, what's her name? Anyway, she's the scientist, she's the dreamer. She's trying to have first contact, and she's got the gig at the big telescope. She's got her cadre, these guys who are all kind of, the blind guy who can hear anything, the other guy who's got like a, IBM 360 for a brain. He can just pick out the mathematical this, but he's fat and he's in a electric wheelchair, and the other guy who's kind of a freak, but he puts it all together. I mean, that's me. But she has a really good crew, and she has a connection to the scumbag, who is her boss, who always takes credit for whatever. I mean, he gives her whatever she needs. He lets her do whatever she wants. He gives her full reign because he knows this girl's way smarter than I am. But soon as it comes out, he takes credit for it. I mean, that scene where she thinks she's going to go in front of the camera, explain everything, he just steps right in front of her. That's how it is. And she was always going, oh, but, she never gave up. She always stepped up, even though she, but yeah, hey, your mom dies, your dad dies, and I could whine a little bit over that, I can understand, but she never gave up. She always stood up, and she used that angst as a motivating chip, which is what it's there for, not to whine about, So, you folks have access to more information than the rest of the human race. Right? So tonight, the first part. Did you guys like the crazy eyes and the sound? Yeah, I thought that was fun. I had a good time doing that. And tonight I'm starting off. I'm going to be the Soupy Sales of the 21st century, right? And I'm going to have White Fang and Black Tooth, and we're going to talk about, theology, physics, and what's going on. So, and that'll be the first half an hour, or 20, 30 minutes, just like the last one was, waiting for you guys to show up. And then we're going to go and, like, I want you to do some homework before then. I want you to come with some good questions that we can then take to the Akashic Record, take it to the old crone, and let her lay it down. And she will bring friends from Shambhala. Shambhala is this place that's, after you die, you either get sucked into light and get wearing blended into another character of your karma, or you can step back and, again, just like why I keep taking you to the tree of knowledge in your sanctuary, is I'm trying to give you a little practice so when you die, you will see the tree, you'll see the bright light, right? And you'll see it shimmering over there. That's the Lake of the Link. Or you look over to the left and you will see, the tree of life. And you just kind of take yourself away from the bright light. I'm not going to look at it. And you look down at the roots and you'll see all those little slivers. And you take your telescope eye and you look down in them and you can go to those. And one of them is Shambhala, and that's this world where you are who you are, and you can continue your work there as who you are, surrounded by all these like Tesla and Einstein and Newton and you name it, and all the great minds that never get, like T. Townsend Brown and, Farnsworthy, a ton of people who did amazing things, and most of the great science was done by women, Madame Curie is just the one that they couldn't just bury. And blacks too, did amazing things because they were out there working, who invented all, the industrial age were blacks because they were, they were picking cotton and getting their hands. So the guys who invented the cotton gin, the reaper. McCormick didn't. It's his wife and the guys who worked in the field. Because, the white owners, they were back in town whoring, drinking, gambling. And that's why the people who run our country are, whoring, drinking, gambling. That's why our stock market is just one big Las Vegas. And the way it's bouncing up and down, that is so right in your face. Hey, okay, when it's way up here, it's like around 27,000. We sold before anybody else. It crashed. We bought it real cheap. Now it came up. And when it got up to that, every time it goes up 700 points, 1,000 points, these guys sell it there. Bang, it goes down the floor. They buy it again. It goes up. Bang, they sell it. And it goes up and down. And that's why it's doing bing, 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 bing. Because they're making a lot of money. And then they're not paying taxes on it because of the tax giveaway that Donnie gave them. That wasn't a giveaway to the working man, that's for sure. And our economics, the only thing keeping American economy alive is that we have the petrodollar. And that's not going to last too much longer. So, that's like I'm saying, this is the last chance, guys. And, that's why this country came together. You guys, you have no experience at this. But you've had some pretty amazing experiences in your life. So if you suspend the disbelief that, oh, I don't matter, oh, I can't do anything, suspend that, man. We can change we are changing the world. That's what I feel. Don't you feel that we're changing the world? Don't you guys? Can you talk about David Bowie tomorrow. It's his birthday. Okay, tomorrow I'll definitely tell the David Bowie, and it'll be the extended version of David Bowie because the one I said on John's channel was just a thumbnail of how I met him and that night. But we hung out for about a week before he jetted away, right? And so, yes, thanks for telling me that. So tomorrow evening is going to be our David Bowie memory lane. Okay? And what you're gonna like about it is because after his party, and oh, you're David Bowie. Oh, does that make a difference? I said, no, not really. You're still the guy I met the other night, and that we've been hanging out. But what we did do, I took him to Weiser's bookstore, and Theosophical Society was there, and the Volo Society was there, and a few more of those kind of societies, and I showed him that kind of stuff. And he was like, And this was before he did Man Who Fell to Earth, right? And there's a really beautiful little church on 30-something Street off of Lexington. And it's what I loved about that church, it was always open, 24/7, 365, right? And there was always a priest there to talk to you, to listen to your confession, whatever, right? And they weren't ever asking for the money. And it was like a workers' church, too. So, and what I loved about that place, the way it was set and the stained glass, the light that came through it, again, it was like Doctor Who's Taurus, that it's this little, it was right on a street. It had just a straight up, gray kind of brownstone look and, big doors, these big wooden doors, and there was a cross. And it had a sign outside, with the letters you put for announcements. And it said, Saint, Catholic Church. It was a Catholic church. But man, when you went inside, it was like a cathedral. It was unfriggin' it was, you went outside, you expected to be no more than 20, 30 seats. You could see almost 1,000 people in there. And it had 4 different altars, the main one, and it was pretty amazing. So I took him in there, and we spent a good time. I gave him a little journey to his Akashic record, and introduced him to the old crone and her farm. So tomorrow, for David Bowie's birthday, I'm going to give the extended version of meeting David Bowie. And then we're going to go into state and go to the old crone's farm. And David Bowie will be there. Okay? And you guys can talk to David Bowie. And you guys can ask him questions. And he'll play music. Okay? Because there's a music room in the old crone's farmhouse. You'll be able to, have a band. You can have him sing any song you want. So this is going to be tomorrow. Thank you for telling me that tomorrow is David Bowie's birthday. So tomorrow will be, so tell a lot of people. Let's see how many people we can get to tomorrow's show. Let's see how many we can get to tonight's show. The more the merrier. More thumbs up. Come on, more thumbs up. Okay, what else you guys got to say here? Oh, yeah, Sagan. When I was at Cornell, Sagan had already died, but Sagan's world was there, The reason why Sagan went to Cornell was that Cornell, if you go to any national laboratory, there's a Cornell Avenue, Boulevard, Cornell was like the center, because the property that Cornell is on, this river goes right through it, right? And there's all these waterfalls. And Ithaca has Ithaca's a great town to live in because there's tons of waterfalls, right? I had a house downtown Ithaca that I had no backyard. There was a porch, and you look off the porch, there was this waterfall, right? And you could jump off my porch, and you go in the water, and you get pushed over to this area that you could just float around, and it had nice little, you know, water plants and stuff, and you could and it had grass that went up and then went up to the road, and you just kind of walked around to my house. I mean, jumped in, got pushed over here, walked up the nice grassy hill to the sidewalk, and you walked no more than 100 yards, if that, to my front door. Yellow front door. Beautiful little house. Too bad that I had a girlfriend who I found it. She had, her daddy gave her a lot of money, so she had good credit rating, blah, blah, blah. And she's, oh, I'll put in my name on, you're not going to school here, I am, and I'll be here forever. And I said, sure, here, go. And she was a real rocket scientist, that girl. She was, and that's Cornell. There are all these people like this that are really smart, but they have no human connection. So we hit it off, and she thought I was going to marry her, da-da-da-da-da-da. No, I liked her. She was fun. She was great. She was really smart. And, she had a big checkbook, too. And we kind of sparked off, Like I said, I'm not really all that Aquarians, we like sex, but it's not the number one thing. We're not thinking about it. It's not. But once we spark, hey, we're pretty sparky. So she and I were pretty sparky. So I'll leave you with this little tale of her. So we've been together, maybe 5 months. And, I probably was there longer than she was. She had gotten there in the spring. I had been there the semester before. So I had already been there maybe 6 months. And I had already eased in, meaning I was doing this research project. I was in a program, in a department, and I had great access to almost anything I wanted, but I didn't have any, no one could tell me what to do because I was being paid by somebody else, in another, in California. And they were giving Cornell a big check, and I was there as one of their research assistants, right? And the guy who ran it, he was getting a big check, and he was running another department, right? So he was busy doing his department thing. So I was the one guy who had the big picture and didn't have an ego. And so I was his number one guy. He let me run everything, do the assignments, do the data dump, everything, right? And do my own little thing. And I would write these things up for him, and he loved reading my stuff. And I said, you can publish any of this stuff you want because, other people in your discipline will read this and will know, oh, this guy's got Al working for him because they all, it's like I didn't need to have my name on it. And often my name would appear on it because it would give them more of a cachet, but that's how it went. Anyway, so this girl really wanted to, she was a lot younger. I mean, not a lot. I was in my 40s. She was in her late 20s. And she was very attractive, but she was really smart. So she never really thought she was attractive. And most men were scared of her, and especially when she was in high school and college, So anyway, so we got along great. We had a great 8 months, right? And the winter then started, the spring, summer, and fall were great. And then the winter started, and it gets cold, and man, I'd still be in Ithaca if it wasn't for the lake effect. Ooh, I mean, you wake up in the morning, it's 40 degrees, you're running around, you go in your office, you work, you come out, and there's like 10 feet of snow. It's like, no. Anyway, so Cornell was the air coordination, most sacred place. This guy, Colonel Cornell, or General Cornell, he basically stole it from them. And they said, buddy, you rule the day. We can't take it back from you. But, the spirits. So, this got this gigantic gorge and river and gorge and waterfall right through the the campus. And this school is the biggest grind school I've ever seen. And they every time they had midterms and finals, basically kids would jump off the bridges into the gorge and commit suicide. So when I was there, they would put a barbed wire along the bridges and have towers. It would look like Stalag 19. You know, oh, there's another runner, get him! You know, and they would hit people with darts. Guys in these towers had darts, would knock the kids down like antelopes. You know, it's like so. Cornell is a very strange place, and I was there when they were just starting up Ronnie Boy's Star Wars, and they built this building called the Math Center. And this is where they really started doing artificial intelligence. I mean, no, they had already gotten artificial, but these guys had serious artificial intelligence. They had neural nets like you, ooh. And that was, you know, if you were there, you could see what they were doing. Anyway, they built it on the most sacred spot of the Iroquois. And they told the guy, listen, you can do whatever you want with this place, but you do anything there, you're going to have a hard time. So they built a 30-story building, all black granite. Looks like Darth Vader. Looks like his helmet. Looks like a black penis, actually. As soon as they built it, it started to fall into the ravine. Anyway, that's Cornell. That energy is, so people are really smart, really driven. A lot of them are a lot of fun. There's great, I mean, they have their own particle accelerator underneath their football stadium. I mean, this, like I said, you know, go to Lawrence Livermore, you go to Brookhaven, you go to any of those national laboratories, Fermilab, any of them, they all have a Cornell Avenue Boulevard. So it's a very strange place. A lot of stuff underground. So anyway, I've got this girlfriend, rocket scientist, and she really is a rocket scientist. And you know, she's going to go up in the space shuttle. You know. So anyway, you know, so the first, you know, spring, summer, fall, we have a great time. You know, I take her. She's never been camping. I know all these places. You know, I know the India. I take her to powwows, all kinds of great stuff. And she's like, she's getting a life. You know, so she thinks she's going to marry me. You know, and you know, as September rolls around, she starts talking like that. You know. Okay, that's right, guys. Don't ask that. And or the Almond Brothers. So so anyway, this was, you know, Ronald Reagan's days, and they were bringing in the Pershings into Europe, and it looked like the end of the world. I mean, people talk about the end of the world. You should have been around then. That was a scary time. I lived in Ireland. After this, I kind of took a little hiatus off to Ireland, and in this town, Glendore, when I lived with the town doctor, there were a ton of Europeans. I mean, intellectual, you know, college professors, Germans and French guys, and you know, Russians even, who were there and just became fishermen because that little town, all of the air that they breathed came from Mexico. And it had to come all the way across the Atlantic before it hit there, because that's how the wind blew. And so if there was a nuclear war, that would be probably the cleanest, freshest, because there was no targets whatsoever. No one was going to be throwing a missile at them. They were right in the middle of the west coast, you know, of Ireland. No one's, you know. So, I mean, the closest thing that was maybe 700 miles away up in Northern Ireland, where they had the English Polaris submarines. And that's why they English wanted to stay in Northern Ireland. Anyway, so there I am with a rocket scientist girl. And, you know, it's starting to go into the winter. And she's trying to be really sweet to me, really sexy to me, really, I mean, she's really pushing. And I'm not saying no. I'm not, you know, I'm just kind of, you know, oh, let's go to the movies. Let's go. What do you think of this piece of poetry? You know, I'm not going for the hook. And so I'm still being the nice, sweet guy. She's still loving it, and she's just thinking I'm being my eccentric Al self. And So we're staying away from that subject matter of us getting married. I said, I've been married twice, and I just lost my second wife a few years ago, and and she had a little issue with, like, why, she's dead. You shouldn't feel anything for it, honey. Come on. Anyway, so we got to this place where the more I kind of tried to navigate away from it, the more she kind of doubled down on it, and she was getting a little testy, right? And because she was a Capricorn and a Scorpio. So she liked the sex. I mean, she really, I didn't, no one had lit her candle until me. And so she was like, this is the guy. And so, like I said, I'm trying to navigate away from the subject. And so she's getting a little more and more, you know, not really pushing that button yet, like the nuclear option, but just, you could tell. And so over near Lake Seneca is where the women's movement in America got started before the Civil War. And there's a Air Force base there, and they fly things to Europe. And so they were bringing all of the Pershing II missiles from their manufacturer on trains into that depot and putting them on C-1 Starlifters and flying them to Europe. And the girls and their encampment was all around the Air Force base, and they would go and lie down on the railroad tracks. And Rumsfeld went there and ordered the train. I mean, he literally got into the, because there were all these girls lined up on the tracks, and there's a big locomotive with all the things. And I mean, he could have just got trucks and just moved it over there, but he wanted to bring the train into the airfield and just do what they had planned. And I don't know if he actually got behind the controls, but he ordered somebody to run the girls over, and they did. And these girls had their heads over the tracks and their legs over the tracks, and it snapped off heads and snapped off legs. So, like, killed a bunch of people and maimed a more bunch. It was like, whew. And then the girls went nuts, and then it was like, oh, off. It was like they had to go someplace else. So I wasn't around for that, but I knew those girls pretty well because had been involved in this, no nuke campaigns of the 70s and stop nuclear power campaigns of the 80s. So, so I knew a lot of those folks, and there were a lot of folks there from Adbusters, and I was like part of that scene too. So, I was part of all these scenes, and that's what she liked. We would cruise into these things. These people, oh yeah, they're my buddies. Come on, let's see. And so she thought she was part of the movement. Please. I mean, she's working for DARPA, making space. She's a rocket scientist. She thinks she's in the peace movement. She really believed in this. She would have, picked up gardening, and that was one of the little. I mean, she had a lot of great things about her. And like I said, we really could spark it up and have some fun. And she was really smart. I really like that about women. But she thought she was always right. And she thought she was always doing, I'm correct, right? So I've set the story up. So we go to, Seneca, and we meet the girls, and, and we're there for, they're playing music and waving the signs. And there's a place near Trumansburg, so I went kind of through Trumansburg early in the morning. When we went there and had a nice breakfast. I'm a big breakfast guy, and so we had a nice breakfast. And we go to the campsite, and we leave about 2:00 because there's a snowstorm allegedly coming in. And this is the Finger Lakes and the lake effect, and I wanted to be snug in the home before that even hit. So we leave about 2. The sun is still out. It's still warm. It's still nice, and we kind of go back the other way to Ithaca, right, which is actually a little shorter. And we're going along, and there's a sign saying Amish, cakes and pies. And, let's go there and get some Amish stuff. And I'm going, well, sure, okay. It's still sunny. I don't see any clouds. So, but lake effect, it can be sunny 1 minute and 2 feet of snow the next. Anyway, so we go there, and she's buying all kinds of stuff. And it's now getting toward, and it's, wintry time, so it's going to be dark by 5. And it's now 3:30. I said, honey, come on, let's go. Oh, just a little more time. So anyway, we get out of there by 4. It's only about 40-minute drive. We should be getting home just before it gets dark. And if it doesn't snow, because it wasn't supposed to snow until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. But this, again, like a fig. So we're going along, and we're halfway there. And we're in this place where the road does this, right? And all of a sudden, we come up over these hills, and it's a blizzard. You can't see anything. And we're going up and down and up and down. And I have to go slower and slower because the windshield wipers, don't. This is her car. And it's a Dodge Dart. And windshield wipers don't really work that good. She never drives it. She just stays in Cornell. We just have this car to run around if we're going to go to things like this. So anyway, and I didn't buy it for her, but a friend of mine had it and sold it to her for $400. Anyway, so we're going up and down, and it's snowing and snowing, and the tires suck, and the car is kind of doing this, and it gets really. I mean, now it's really, it's like an inch a minute, and all of a sudden, the engine goes, and that's it. It stops. The lights don't even light up. It just go, right? And this kind of burning smell kind of comes into the cabin. I go, this ain't good. So I get out. It's, blizzard. And I open up the hood, and the engine is like glowing red, right? And I got these big gloves on, and I take the dipstick where the oil is, and there's an old thing that has, right? And I pull it out, and it's burnt off. It's got like that, instead of a foot long, it's only that long, and it's burnt off, right? And I leave the hood up, and so the engine will cool off and not set the car on fire. Anyway, so I get in the car, and she goes, why are you leaving the hood up? I said, well, honey, when you're driving around this, there's a little light on the dashboard, and when it comes on, it says oil. And she goes, oh yeah, that came on about a month ago. And I said, oh, so what did you do? And she goes, well, you'll be proud of this. I took off the thing of the dashboard, and I took the light bulb out, because that light, it didn't go off, and it bothered me. And I said, but what did it say? And she goes, it said oil. I said, that didn't really make you think of, like, maybe you should check the oil? She goes, well, how do you do that? And I had the dipstick, and I said, look at this thing. And she goes, what's that? It's a dipstick. And she looks at it, and she goes, looks like it burnt off. I said, that's right, honey. There was no oil in the engine whatsoever. The engine, why I left the hood up? Because it's glowing red. And because she never rode more than 4 miles here or 4 miles there, so whatever little oil was in, it didn't matter. But we drove about 100 miles up and down hills, and then we're driving into a snowstorm. Anyway, and I look in the back, and I usually kept water and blankets and one of those, things. And I look back there, and there's none of this. I said, where are the supplies? She goes, oh, I gave them away. I said, you gave them away? Yeah, it was just junk. I said, no, that's survival supplies. She goes, what do we have to survive? I said, well, this car ain't going nowhere. And look at the snow, and we're going to be covered in snow in about 10 minutes. And then this car is going to be one gigantic ice cube. And the only way you can stay alive is by drinking water and eating the food that I had left there, and wrapping ourselves up first in the aluminum, Mylar blanket, and then covering yourself up in a blanket and hoping somebody will find you in the next 5 hours. And then she goes, well, it's not my fault. And, normally, being the psychologist I am, the shrink I am, I wouldn't have said anything, but I was getting like, well, I'm going to die. And this is probably as good a place as any to put the kibosh on the getting married thing. And I said, well, this is your car, and You wanted to take care of it. I would say I would, and she said, no, no, it's your car. So, and whose fault is it? And taking out the light bulb when it says oil is the stupidest. I mean, all you had to do was go to a gas station. Well, I'd have to ask a man. I said, at least that guy may know to look at the dipstick and see how much oil, maybe put some in. I didn't know you need to put oil. I thought it was only gasoline in a car. And it would just went downhill from there. Right? So, and I'm being calm as only your Sensei Al Bob can. And she's starting to really get off the hook because now all of her angst of me not wanting to marry her and not even talk about it and always skating around it and never, confronting the issue and she goes there and she like goes there in like a big way. And she's kind of been, you know, she's no longer that kind of little shy science girl because she's been hanging out with the guerrilla female activists of the women's movement. And so, she's really going screaming and yelling and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, we get hit from behind and the car is shot into the air and we fly across the highway and, get stuck in a snowdrift. And, we're not wearing, we were like, and then right at the height, I said her like, "Wah!" Right? And, we're there. You okay? I'm okay. Anything broken? At least we're not upside down and the car's not on fire. Anyway, so about 4 or 5 minutes, this guy comes and kind of opens up the door. You guys okay? And we go, yeah. He said, oh, let's get you out of there. And so I didn't even see you. And who he was the state snowplow driver, big, gigantic snowplow. And he just plowed in the back of us and he shot us, instead of running over us, crushing us or killing us, he just shot us through the air. And he came and got us. And he dragged us out and got us in the cab, which was so toasty and warm. And he wrapped us up in blankets and he had a thermos of tea. And she's still screaming at me, And he goes, what are you two guys doing there? And she goes, it's, and she just went, I didn't know you had to put oil in a car. I thought it was only gasoline. And I just stayed quiet. And this guy, who's just your basic, snowplow guy, he falls right into it. He goes, what do you mean? And she then describes the whole scenario. And he goes, what are you, a moron? He says, I have a PhD. I'm on astrophysics and blah, 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 blah. And these two went at it, right? And I just sat, I was between them. She's over there. He's over there driving the vehicle. And I'm just like this, knowing not to say anything, right? And so, and kind of, I have my little antenna. Once she really started, in September, kind of intimating we should get married, we should live together, you should move in. Because, see, I had a little, I had an office that had like a little bed in it at the university. That was my little place to stay. And the lady who got me there, she had a farm way outside, well, not way, about 40 miles outside of Ithaca, near Trumansburg. And she got me there to rewire her farm. That was her, and also to save my life, get me out of New York. And so I had two places to go. So I really had very little stuff. I didn't, and that was the thing that also bothered her. I was always there, always slept in her bed. I fixed everything, made everything. I was like her husband, but I was not there. If you don't have your clothes there, you don't have your books there, don't have your anything there, you're not there. Even if you were there all the time and making food and cooking and cleaning and sparking her up and taking her out, having fun, going dancing and movies, if you're not really moving in, you're not in. And that's what she wanted. Well, you don't have to get married, just move in. I said, well, I like it the way we got it. Anyway, And so the snowplow guy and her are going at it, and he says, "You're stupid," expletive. I mean, he was like salty, and she was like, "No one's ever." And she's trying to get across me to strangle this guy. And baby, he's driving the truck. It's a miracle we got hit by him because he's saving our life. And she's past listening to me. She wants to kill this guy because he's all the reasons what men are bad about. Man, he's just driving a snowplow. And he saved our friggin'. He could have kept going. Oh, it's just a log. No, he came and got us. Anyway, we're pulling into Ithaca, and he basically, you know, kind of goes within a block of where the house is with the yellow door. And she goes, "Let me up here," because he was about to go up the county road and then kind of go through Cornell. And I asked him, "You're going to go by such and such hall?" "Oh, yeah, I go right by that." So she gets out and walks the block. And she's not really, I was dressed for it because I looked at the weather report. So I had a big coat, big shoes, big gloves, hat, scarf, not her. Anyway, so she's walking towards the old house. And I'm going, well, I hope because I know I had the keys to the house. I don't know if she had the keys to the house. Anyway, that's not the last I saw of her, but he drove me to my little office, and I got out and went up there, went to sleep. The heat would work. That was the other thing. The yellow house was windy and cold, and the only thing that really heated it was a wood stove. It had electric baseboard heat in the bathroom. That's all it had. The bedroom, not so much. It was really a spring, summer, fall house. It was a little, it was right on. Anyway, so I didn't see her, and then I started hearing all these people. Boy, what did you do to her? I said, tell the story. She goes, oh, what? And then they would use the stupid expletive, right? And she tried to tell everyone that what a bad guy I was. Well, I was there 6 months before she showed up, and people would ask me, why you go out with that woman? And she just dug herself in a hole. And that was going to be the place she was going to stay. Her career was going to be at Cornell. And she worked in the same scene as, what's his name? That we started this off with. Carl. Okay. 1 hour. We talked an hour. King James first. Yep. Revealing study. Yep. Boop-a-doop-boop-boo. I suspect a breakaway civilization has. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. All the truth movement is pretty right on. But, the powers that shouldn't be can't stand it. Well, Infinity, just come to tonight's chat, and you will get the access codes to the Akashic Record, like everyone else gets. Every night we do that. Jodie Foster, yep. Contact, yep. Carl Sagan, yep. And her boss was Carl Sagan. I mean, the actor guy, that was just like what Carl Sagan was like. Sagan, he was part of, and he was part of Majestic. Yeah. Let's see. Yep, that's it. Lauren, see what Mike says? 20%, 30%. It's just breath. 20% in, 30% out. But tonight, we do a guided meditation, so we're going to do that tonight. And tonight, if you get there early, when I start, I'm going to be the Soupy Sales of the 21st century. And Soupy had White Fang and Black Tooth. I think I'm going to have Karl Rove and Dick Cheney. Yep, it's the most survivable place in Europe. I'm a survivor, yes. You haven't figured that one out yet? Yes, that's what university, that's why, I got a lot of degrees, but I got common sense. That's more important. No one ever told her about cars. I tried to. Yep. I mean, Carl was all right. I mean, everybody has a good side, bad side. He was a great showman, that's for sure, right? He did more for science than pretty much anybody in the 60s and 70s. But he was just like that character in Contact, Jodie's boss, who would step right in front. He wanted to take all of the credit, He was, right. Met him a few times, not very impressed. He wasn't the smartest. Like I said, great showman, He was like the Donald Trump of the stars. Shannon River. The rivers of Ireland they're amazing. They're just so special. When I went back in 2005, and like I said, what happened to Dublin, how they took down the Oaks and how they made these like Brussels bridges and put up Brussels, sculpture. They took all the heroes down. It was very, very, very disappointing. Okay, 1 hour and 7 minutes. So I think I'm going to say good night or good morning or good afternoon or all of the above. And I hope to see you all tonight. Again, 7 p.m. Be there, be square. And I'm going to start off with Soupy Sales. I'm going to be the Soupy Sales of of the 21st century. Okay, guys, I love you. It's 1 hour and 28 seconds. I'm going to say goodnight. Okay, say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Boop,